in marriage, when it comes to money, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine, right? Well, that's the case for some, but not for everybody. We have Jody Ruxel here from Integrity First Planners. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kathy.
You are so welcome. So I'm dying to talk about this with you. You work with couples all the time. So I understand, if I'm right, that your pension doesn't go that way. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine, or how does that work?
Well, it does. Each person has their individual pension.
Okay.
The problem arises the spouse has to be the beneficiary on that pension, or 401k, 403b, whatever it is. The spouse has to be the beneficiary. The only way that that spouse is not beneficiary is if they sign a waiver giving up their rights. And Kathy, I don't think that happens very often.
I was going to ask you if that ever happened.
Not in my career, it hasn't.
So what happens, though, if people are working at two separate locations and they have their own separate 401ks? I mean, you must deal with this all the time. So they're beneficiaries on each other's, right?
Absolutely. And what they need to do is, though, they need to communicate, because a lot of times they want to bring emotions into the decision-making process. And they really have to just keep to the reality and keep to the facts. If they bring those emotions in, they'll end up with detrimental
Then you'll be calling me.
Yes.
Yes. So what kind of emotions have you experienced in your office with couples?
Lots. Lots. And really the best thing to do is communication. Again, I can't stress that enough, is really key. And they really need to focus on what their long-term goals and objectives are. And sometimes when you say communication, as your show talks about, in so many different aspects and areas of the relationship, but with finances, this is one area where sometimes you're better off bringing in a third party, an independent financial advisor that can present all the options that are available to you, and sometimes, if necessary, act a little bit as a mediator.
I bet. So what happens if two people come in and they have two separate 401ks and they have their own agenda for their 401ks, but meanwhile, the other person's the beneficiary? And they don't like the agenda that the one has for their,
Unfortunately, that's where it gets a little bit sticky and it can get dangerous. If you're not communicating the 401ks that the two individuals have, the investments inside of those can be at odds.
Right.
Or if they're investing identically, then you may not be taking on the diversity that you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem, Kathy, really arises the beneficiary, the spouse, really doesn't have a say-so in the investments of the other spouse's pension. So you really want to rely on communication and then make it a team effort.
I see. So they can try to sway them, but
Absolutely.
Legally they have no recourse.
Legally they have no recourse.
All right.
Which could hurt them down the road when you're looking at an income stream into retirement, because remember, these are creating your pension check. Because long ago, 30 years ago, you'd work for an employer, you'd retire, and you'd get a monthly paycheck, a pension. Now the burden is on you.
Oh, yeah, and how you invest it.
And you're not only funding your pension, but you're managing the investment side of things too.
So the teamwork would be really important, because if you don't work as a team and one person makes an arbitrary decision and they pick investments that tank, and the other person's going, oh great, I'm the beneficiary of nothing.
Absolutely.
You know, that's not good. So now, have you ever experienced where couple's in your office and one comes in and the other one's clueless about the other person's investments? I mean, they're like totally out of the loop. Is that common?
That's very common, actually. And when it becomes a real issue is when that person becomes disabled or is no longer here for whatever reason. And this person is dealing with the stress of a lot of different things going on in their life.
Right.
And money, obviously, is one of those. And when they don't have any clue or understanding, even from the very basics. And so I always encourage, when a couple sits down in front of me, I always encourage for it to be a learning process.
Right, and
you don't need to feel like you don't know it, so feel bad about that.
I'm always talking to couples about having financial meetings, whether it's with a financial planner or just the two of them, so that they're both in the loop, because God forbid, poo, anything happens to either one of them, they need to know what's going on.
And you'll feel better about it, and you'll get on that road to communication.
Absolutely.
A lot easier.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Kathy.
It's very fun
to
and
be
very
here.
good information.
Thank
so
you.
if you feel you're in a position where you really need to get in the loop, you may want to call Jody at Integrity First Planners at 216-751-4229 or go onto the website at integrityfirstplanners.com. Stay with us, because we have Ask Coach Kathy coming up next.
Coming up, he checks up on you and wants you to check in with him, but should you just check out? Kathy shares her checklist for making this decision. And next week, the time is ticking for when taxes are due. We'll share last-minute tax tips next week on Can You Relate with Kathy Dawson.